Hello you absolute fish, Andy here for WhatCulture Wrestling, and I guess with Royal Rumble 2019 finally out of the way, we are officially on the road to WrestleMania 35. The coming weeks and months will be full of weird, wonderful and wacky happenings, and this does tend to be the most exciting time of year to follow this weird little company. So with that in mind, let's take a look at how things should go down in WWE's main event scene leading up to the biggest show of the year after what happened at the Royal Rumble. So if we can rewind a little bit to get things started, for 3 pissy years, WWE's Royal Rumble was so absolutely broken that people didn't even realize the same thing was going on the company's only bigger stage. Its grandest stage, in fact. When Rey Mysterio and Batista got obliterated for not being Daniel Bryan in 2014, it only took a few months before Vince McMahon caved in through extreme convolution. This resulted in WrestleMania 30 going off the air with streamers and celebrations as Daniel Bryan held his new title belts up high and the fans' dream sequence became a reality. In this moment, WrestleMania's big conclusion, which, let's be honest, is often the defining image of the entire show itself, felt like it was back to its best after 3 poorly conceived conclusions in the John Cena vs. The Rock 3-arc play. And if we're being honest, it felt really good. The next year, WrestleMania 31 served both the fans and the company. Seth Rollins was a people's champion, having left the building with the WWE title following a very Vince McMahon match between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns after probably the best cash-in of all time. I'll let you argue about that. That night, Lesnar and Reigns had delivered the big boy banter that Vince so dearly craves, and McMahon was contrite enough to let Rollins smash it to bits at the end and let the fans have their big moment, but unfortunately, Vince has been putting us all back in our box ever since. WrestleMania 32 boasted the biggest and artificially inflated attendance of all time, but that number looked like it had halved by the time Roman Reigns defeated Triple H in the main event. And the following year at WrestleMania 33, those that stuck around for the big dog's triumph over The Undertaker were given 2 specific reasons to be teary-eyed. Number 1 was that they thought the dead man had retired for good, and number 2 was that they had to sit through that match just to get to the ceremony. Then at WrestleMania 34, Brock Lesnar was so hacked off with his own victory over Roman that as soon as he got back to Gorilla in the backstage area, he literally launched the Universal title at Vince McMahon's face. McMahon rightly called him an arsehole for that, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like Lesnar was reflecting the fans. WWE were fudging the WrestleMania finish again and again and again. Now, it's unfortunate that Roman Reigns is the common denominator here because personally, I really like the guy. I think he's a really underrated performer and someone who is nowhere near deserving of all the hatred he has received over the past few years. But as was often the case with Roman's promotion as the guy, the anger thrown at him had less to do with the man and more to do with the McMahon behind the man. You see what I did there? Yep. Good. Roman Reigns is a powerhouse at the merch table and a certified house show draw. He's very adept at extracting cash from pockets in an era where many others aren't, so what McMahon did was he followed the money at the expense of creativity. And Vince didn't really change his ways throughout the course of Roman's latest run. He just got better at coping with them. So let's look at SummerSlam 2018, where Roman finally beat Brock to become the Universal Champion after several setbacks. McMahon understood what kind of reception he was going to receive that night, so what he did was not only cut off as soon as that credits thing hit, but he also shot the whole thing at a really low angle so you couldn't see the arena emptying. There wasn't a sea of fans behind Reigns cheering his triumphant victory, but an indifferent emptying pool, and Vince wanted to hide that. Now obviously Vince cannot inflict a similar crime on Reigns at WrestleMania 35. Real life, real unfair, awful life has meant that isn't a possibility for the big dog. While he's out, McMahon has to think of something else. Now, WWE did get on the road to WrestleMania 35 with earnest imperfection at Royal Rumble 2019, but it had little to do with Seth Rollins, the latest babyface by proxy. And looking at it now, 2019 may finally be the year when the WrestleMania destination outperforms the journey, and all it takes is for Vince McMahon to show a little guts. For all the ups and downs of the Women's Royal Rumble match, WWE followed up on it with two powerful segments that really enhanced Becky Lynch. Getting her to the inevitable follow-up on Raw and SmackDown was the real biggest task at hand, particularly after making the ballsy move to have her tap out to Asuka in the Royal Rumble's opening match. In that specific moment, wrestling Asuka, the man was gotten to for the very first time since her reinvention, and it had nothing to do with her 280 Twitter characters, no. This was down to just one. A rejuvenated Empress of Tomorrow forced her into tapping or snapping, and with a rare shot of humility, Lynch accepted her fate. It was a gamble, but one that already seems to be paying off. Literally stumbling through the clunky booking of her entrance into the Royal Rumble, Becky won the whole damn thing as the conquering hero, and that erased much of the damage done and most memories of the loss to Asuka in the very same night. And any remaining flashbacks were fired into the goddamn sun when she challenged Ronda Rousey in an awesome segment on Raw, then locked horns with Charlotte Flair, her old rival, on SmackDown. And now, as we move forward to WrestleMania 35, a singles bout is on the match graphic, but a triple threat still looms. It would be the most natural and organic freeway that WWE have booked since Perry Saturn, Terry Runnels, and Moppy. But WWE could be missing a golden opportunity here. They now have the chance to cement everything they've been building towards since the debate on the man and the baddest woman on the planet headlining WrestleMania reopened a few weeks ago. But let's be honest here, the triple threat argument is actually quite compelling. Now, this might not be the most popular opinion in the world, but I reckon adding Charlotte Flair to the match would almost certainly improve its quality. Now, that's not to say that Lynch versus Rousey one-on-one wouldn't be awesome. In fact, I'm pretty sure it would be one of the best main roster matches all year, if not of the past few years. But this situation is the rule-proving exception to the usual debate that goes on when we're talking about singles versus triple threats. Besides, almost everyone on the roster has their best match with Charlotte involved, and it kind of makes sense from a storyline perspective as well. You know, shoehorn Charlotte and all that. However, the top end of WWE's women's division is now so talent-rich that it might be savvier to share the wealth. The weight of tension and the sheer hype levels currently surrounding the Raw Women's Championship have unfortunately left Asuka and her SmackDown Women's Championship lacking in purpose. The Empress got her mojo back by making Becky tap out at the Royal Rumble, but now she finds herself without an obvious opponent heading towards the biggest show of the year. So, who better than the woman who beat her at WrestleMania 34 and ended her legendary undefeated streak, setting off her whole downward spiral throughout the summer. Exactly 1 year removed from one of the most devastating losses of her career, Asuka could seek revenge against WWE's undisputed big match queen. The big stage boogeyman angle is a very compelling one, but it's something that WWE haven't done in years, and it's currently being deftly employed over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where Tetsuya Naito and Kazuchika Okada are slowly crafting a multi-year angle. Now, this one would be operating on a slightly smaller timescale, but it can still work. And with all the pieces in place, a rebuilt and revamped Asuka can indeed fall to Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania for the second year in a row. Now, I know that is quite a hard sell, particularly after what happened last time, but it can work with the right follow-up. Recovered and redefined, there's absolutely no need for Asuka to fall into the awful comedy bits that she did last year when she was hanging out with James Bloody Ellsworth and Carmella, and let's be honest, that was what really ruined her. On top of this, Charlotte's excessive pride in beating Asuka for a second time could lead to a third match on the grandest stage of them all whenever WWE see fit, in which, of course, Asuka would go over and win the 3-year feud. So if that pans out and Becky Lynch beats Ronda Rousey, both her and Charlotte could be leaving WrestleMania with new championships. And guess what? The 4 horsewomen of WWE have a ready-made tag team to complete the championship trifecta. Bayley and Sasha Banks have had a rough couple of years on Raw, but their recent performances in singles action against Ronda Rousey have elevated them not only as competition for the baddest woman on the planet, but also themselves. In delivering assured and decisive victories over both, Rousey has been elevated to the level of ultimate destroyer in WWE's women's division ahead of the big match against Becky Lynch. But as refreshing as it was to see Bayley and Banks back in singles action with these women's tag titles coming around, I think it feels like something of an injustice if they don't leave WrestleMania 35 with both of them in their grasps. They're almost as good together as they are apart and have walked, talked, worked, and even dressed like a tag team since burying their beef last year. Now, Elimination Chamber 2019 is where the first champions will be crowned. I don't think they'll win it just then, but if they do so on the grandest stage of them all, it could be brilliant for both Bayley and Sasha and the new belts. Now, if you've seen this video in your subscription box and you've clicked the link, you probably know that the Four Horsewomen's curtain call is the ultimate payoff for all of this. And really, there has never been a better time for WWE to follow up on the first time they did this, which was back at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn in 2015, and hand the Horsewomen another iconic photo. Women making the WrestleMania main event was a pipe dream back then, but here, now, before the futuristic throes of 2020, it's right in front of our nose. And Ronda Rousey's star power has of course elevated everything, but it's the sheer graft and work ethic of these four women, the Four Horsewomen, that has kept the revolution steady through all of WWE's booking inconsistencies over the past few years. Wrestling is obviously scripted. Championships aren't technically won and lost, but moments of professional and personal victory are legitimately earned. And who could argue them this opportunity after everything they've done to push the division forward? And for these four WWE trailblazers, closing WrestleMania 35 in the ring together triumphant would be the biggest victory in their division's history. So there it is, our take on what should be WrestleMania 35's closing shot. Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Charlotte Flair all standing together in celebration, holding their new titles. And now that we're at the end, I implore you to head over to our website and check out the awesome accompanying article written by my very good friend, the great man Michael Hamflett. It's tremendous, and you'll find the link down in the section below. And once you've done that, as this is a big picture topic and I'm sure you've all got a lot to say about it, go ahead and let us know what you think down in the comment section. And then, of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And for now, I've been Andy, and I'll see you later.